Welcome back, and thank you again for coming tonight. And we're going to, I have a couple questions to kind of frame things, but before that, we're going to start with a question from the audience. So,
Great.
Diego.
Okay. I would like, in very broad terms, because it's a tricky question actually, so what does it take to have creativity embedded in the organization's culture? Because both of you spoke about a culture of creativity. So I would like, what did it take for FisherPrice and Rich Product to reach the level of having creativity embedded or ingrained at the culture level?
Great question.
Great
You
question.
go first.
I'll go. Yeah. Thank you so much.
For Rich's, I think there's a couple things around that. First of all, Rich's was founded on creativity and innovation. Our founder, Mr. Rich Sr., was an innovator at heart, and so it has been a part of our culture because of him. And because he was the founder and the leader, like I mentioned earlier, the leadership is so important to embed creativity into the culture. And so it's just part of who we are. And there's just no question, that's the expectation out of everybody. So that's where I'm kind of lucky around that. However, to keep it alive every day is the challenge. And that's why we have we have what we call the Rich Promise. And part of the Rich Promise, one of the values is around innovation. And we have an innovation value, and it's all around helping people understand what creativity is, understanding what role they play, understanding that everybody is accountable and needs to be creative and innovative in every part of the aspect of what they do. And again, like I mentioned earlier, it's not just about the product. So we talk innovation every day. We have an innovation fair every year, and the founder passed away 3 years ago, and so on Founders Day, which is coming up on March 12th, the highlight of the day is innovation, and we ask the entire company to submit what their innovations are, what they've done in the past year, what they've implemented over the past year, and it's all across the organization. And so they submit their innovations, and they have to tell what it was, where the idea came from, how much it saved, how it dropped to the bottom line, what they're doing differently. They have to tell their story. And then there's criteria, and we actually have winners of who had the biggest impact on the company. And we're just kind of in the process of going through that now, but we say, you know what, is there a product one, is there a process one, is there one from our manufacturing sites? And you have to look at them all differently. And we don't want to just say, you know what, it's all about this. So we have, like I said, manufacturing, we have an international award, we have a product award, we have a process award. So people are really thinking globally about what this is all about and how they can impact it. So we talk innovation every single day, and we challenge our folks every single day. And so that's how we've continued to keep it alive. And anytime anything comes up, even as we're evaluating these innovations, we always say, what would the founder think? Is he going to think that's innovative? Is he going to get really jazzed by that? Is that something he would have supported and said, oh, wow, that's really awesome? And so his legacy is still around, and he still challenges us, and we challenge ourselves. So again, I think I'm lucky because that foundation is there, like you were talking about earlier, Tony. But in order to keep it alive, you have got to continually talk about it, continually challenge people, continually educate people, and just have people thinking about it.
Let me ask you one thing off of that, and then certainly others can chime in. What does it see? What do you see? What does it feel like? What do you hear in the daily life of the organization that shows those kind of things? That it's a creative climate.
Yep. I think if you just come in and take a look at our office building, you will feel it within the company, because we have got a great environment. When you walk into the one side of our building, it's a replica of Niagara Falls. We've just renovated our office space, so it's an open environment, so you can kind of feel people just talking and sharing ideas instead of having these closed offices anymore. And it is having this language around people saying, you know what, how to do this. It's not we can't do this. You're hearing more people say, how can we do this? It's having that language of saying challenge the status quo. And so he says, we've always done it that way, especially as new people come into the organization. It's amazing. People are often threatened by that. And we say, don't be threatened by that, but value what they bring. And so it's a matter of tell us what you're doing and what you bring. Back to your point earlier, you know, what's happening in other companies. So valuing that. So we ask a lot of questions of each other. We challenge each other. We, if somebody shoots down an idea or judges an idea, we kind of have fun with it to say, you can't do that. So it's all in the way we talk to each other, speak with each other. The environment itself, like I said, it's very open, it's very colorful. We have great artwork around the company. And so they really, it's not words on a page. I don't know if that answers it.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure. It reminds me of a situation I think that you had said keeping it live is most important. Because I graduated from with the master's program, went back to where I live and found a company that was probably very similar to Rich Brothers. They've actually developed a creative physical environment where their 4 floors were very open style floors. They had knowledge centers on each floor. Each floor almost looked exactly the same. They had post-it note areas where they had tables that they had, if employees were walking, they could stop at that area and do brainstorming. They had whiteboards in other areas, so they had the whole thing was really nice. Conference rooms with excursions where they had indoor-outdoor lawn chairs inside inside one room. They had a living room set up with another room. And the more I talked, I was so excited because I thought this was a company that I could really connect with. The founder had passed away, got a whole new leadership team. They had this great creative environment that with all these conference rooms, with cross-functional teams that were kind of not functional anymore. The new leadership team was bringing in a different approach to the organization. And everything that Shari said that they probably took so long to build was just disappearing with the leadership style. Mm-hmm. So keeping it alive is a challenge, I think.
Mm-hmm. Just another build on this, I was recently working with another customer, and the person that I was coordinating it within the company said, you know, Shari, this is all good. I'm really excited about this brainstorming session. However, I'm just not sure about the toys. And the music and the colored markers. I'm not comfortable with that. We're going to be meeting with the top executives of this company, and I'm just feeling a little uncomfortable. I mean, there is no way you would take the toys up on the 4th floor with Bob and Mindy, Rich. And I said, no, as a matter of fact, I have. And he goes, you're kidding. And I said, absolutely not. Mindy Rich, who is our Vice President of Innovation, we call her the Queen of Pop because she has passion, optimism, and persistence. She would say, you know, she'd say, where are the toys? Where's this? Where's the music? And so, you know, with our executive leadership team, I use those. And he goes, you're kidding me. And I said, absolutely not. And I said, and to tell you the truth, if you want me to facilitate this session, there's certain things I'll give up and certain things I'll work with you on, but this is not one of them. I said, either you have this stuff because it really creates the environment and really shows how unique we are as a company compared to the other vendors that they're going to be working with and other partners. And I says, I'm telling you, trust me, it will be so successful and they will love it. So he went in a little bit nervous, and I had all the toys out, and the first person walked in the room and they just lit up, and they grabbed one of the balls, and it was one of those sticky balls, and threw it against the wall, and the guy looked at me and said, last time I doubt that. So, but it is, again, it starts with the leadership. Bob and Mindy, Rich, I would do it on the 4th floor, the executive floor with them. They love all that stuff, and so they really set the tone of the expectations.
And I'd say that on the culture thing, we have very, very similar histories. FisherPrice has been around forever, and they had founders, Fisher and Price. Herm Fisher was the one who actually kind of created the whole mission of play, and as many of you remember, the wooden toys and the fun little wagging tails and all that. That purity of play is so important, and it used to be what would Herm think, so we kind of did that. And I'd say the thing that is most important is to have a mission statement. It's your North Star. If you don't have a mission statement that you can always look onto and say, are we doing it? Are we doing this right? And I had the pleasure of being a part of redoing the mission statements about, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago. There a bunch of the leaders were asked to go to El Segundo, which is Mattel's headquarters. FisherPrice is owned by Mattel. And part of what we were doing was studying international leadership, but it got into this really big discussion of culture and the difference of the Mattel culture versus the FisherPrice culture versus American Girl, which is also owned by Mattel. And then there's a FisherPrice in New York City, that works with a lot of the licenses, Sesame Street and Nickelodeon and all that. So 4 really different cultures. And so we really had a huge discussion on what do we have in common? And really what we had in common was play. And so we really spent hours on what's the mission statement around play. And it was great because Bob Eckert, who was the CEO of Mattel, came in while we were kind of doing a lot of storming on this one, and he said, I would never change the FisherPrice culture. That was a great thing to hear, since he's head of Mattel. And because there were things about the FisherPrice culture that we were thinking of the family. Okay, so FisherPrice, it's in East Aurora, very family. FisherPrice in New York is, we call that one fast paced because it's right in the city. Mattel is fashion because they're right near Hollywood. How did we interweave it? Our mission statement was, we broke it into 4, and we use this all the time. And one was play together. So how do we play within our own company? How do we play cross-divisionally? That's really big, is how do you kind of intermix? Play together, play with passion. What are you excited about? How do you bring that passion into whatever you do? Play fair. How are you in relation to your community? How do you treat other people? What's your level of respect that you have? And then play to grow. Obviously, you are there to make money, but you're also there to grow as a person. So those are our 4 things that's written up. It's on the wall. It's things that we talk about all the time. So the culture it's infused with play. In terms of the physical environment, that's such a big deal. I can't emphasize it enough. As the openness, we have a team center. The way we work is we are cross-discipline. So it's not about all the designers are in one room, you throw it out over the wall to the engineer, and oh God, here comes marketing. That's not how it works. We work together as a team. That's really important. And a freedom to, we were just talking about the freedom to be funny and silly, the freedom to fail. That's, it's fail often, but do it early. That's our things. Like, since you need to fail to grow, and you experiment a lot when you're failing. I imagine with the science of food, there's lots of failures, but you can imagine some of the surprises that come up. So a freedom to fail, a freedom to experiment, a freedom of humor, a freedom of diversity. Creative people can be downright weird, that we all are like that, and to accept the differences when people are creative and embrace it, and you're not wrong. That's the other thing. As a leader, one of the things I've had to say so often, it's not wrong, it's different. That's the thing that's so important. Just because someone isn't doing it your way doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just a different way. And to be able to, again, accept the new people that are coming in and what do they bring, as well as the experience of the people who've been there forever. That's one thing that is so important, especially at FisherPrice East Aurora. There's no turnover there. I mean, I've been there 25 years. I know people who've been there 40 years, and they're still creative. And so this embracing the experience, we have a thing in Play to Grow where the principal designers and the management actually have to do knowledge transfer. They have to present. We have a cafe. It's so cool. It's going to be called Nexus Cafe. We had a library that no one was using. Again, my boss's vision. We need to turn that into a coffee shop. How can we all go there? There's internet access, there's coffee, there's magazines, there's a place to play Wii Bowling. There's going to be Wii Bowling League. I can hardly wait. That's going to be really fun. But there's also going to be one-on-one. There's these knowledge shares. So the principal designers and the managers and the people who've been there forever are going to be doing presentations. If someone's really good at Photoshop, you bring it in, you're going to talk about it with people who aren't as good. If somebody knows how to do name storming, what are your techniques? You're going to present it. All of those things, I think it's going to be either once a month or twice a month presentations. Not everyone has to go, but there's always going to be little workshops. So being able to share your knowledge is also part of the culture. So people kind of know what you know. That's a great thing, to be able to do that.
Great.